This is a special report from ABC News.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Peter Jennings at ABC News headquarters. It is no longer a standoff in Waco. We interrupt to bring you up to date on a major disaster at the Branch Davidian compound in Waco, Texas today. The pictures tell some of the story, but not all. What was the Branch Davidian compound was first smoke and then fire. It began early today after the FBI began to break through the walls of various buildings in the compound and pour CS tear gas into the building through nozzles extended at the end of M60 Abrams tanks. And then fire appeared first at one end of the compound and then at the other, and before long, as you can see, it was a conflagration. Just a short while ago, a spokesman for the Attorney General, Janet Reno, said that 8 cult members are now in federal custody near Waco, Texas, and that 2 of the cult members have admitted they started the fire that wiped out this compound altogether in a little more than an hour. According to the Attorney General's spokesman, they used torches to light fires at various locations in the compound itself. For the most part, we only know what we saw before our eyes. We cannot be sure of how many people survived, though some clearly have. Our law correspondent, Tim O'Brien, as we watch the pictures, is in Washington. Tim, what do you know as of now?
Peter, FBI in Waco is telling the Justice Department here in Washington, who's telling us that initially they thought perhaps as many as 20 people had surrendered. Now we're hearing perhaps as many as a handful. The numbers are obviously incomplete. We don't have precise information, and we're not even sure the FBI does at this time.
The FBI in Waco, which, as you know, took over from alcohol, tobacco, and firearms after the initial assault 51 days ago, had, Tim, we've been told, running out of patience a little bit and have been trying for several days to mount an operation to bring this to an end. Same sense there?
That is correct. And the Attorney General and the President and the Director of the FBI, Judge Sessions, they all had consulted on this. This was a planned operation this morning. They knew that they would escalate the confrontation. They were asked did they recognize that it might trigger something. And they said they were aware of that too, but there's no way that they could have expected this.
The FBI agent on the ground, Bob Rick, said this morning when they began to put tear gas into various buildings after first pushing through them with the M60 tanks, or at least pushing a long boom through the outside walls of the buildings, put a nozzle also on a boom at the end of a tank in, and Bob Rick said it was aimed to make their environment as uncomfortable as possible until they exit the compound. That was just a little after 6 o'clock Central Time this morning, 7 o'clock Eastern Time, and in no time it was out of control. Watching it all from his vantage point, 84 miles from Texas, 7 miles from Waco itself, is ABC's Charlie Murphy. Charlie?
Hello, Peter.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Did anybody there ever anticipate that this would go as wrong as it has?
As wrong as it has, you said?
Yes.
I'm not sure that they didn't, Peter. There's always been the possibility of something like this happening. In fact, most of us here are not surprised at all. Koresh has been talking in apocalyptic terms since this thing began, predicting the end of the world and Armageddon, and his followers have believed virtually everything that he said, as far as we know.
Charlie, we're watching the fire itself. Tell us what you can see from a distance now in terms of what is still standing. Just the water tower, right?
I can't even see the water tower from here. All I can see is a white vapor coming up, which indicates hose water hitting embers or cinders. And the fire trucks, of course, didn't get here till 30 minutes after the blaze started. Not that they could have stopped it in the first place. I don't think all the fire trucks in Waco could have prevented this fire, because once it began, it went through that building like a pile of kindling. In about 10-15 minutes, it was done.
In fact, the FBI says they had some firefighting equipment on the scene, but their clear intention was apparently to reach people before the fire went as extensively as it did throughout this entire compound. It's all wind. Charlie, there were high winds today.
I didn't hear you.
I said there were high winds today, were there not?
High winds of 25 to 30, maybe gusting to 35 or even 40 miles an hour, Peter. And it swept through there in 15 minutes. It was practically all over by then.
Okay, Charlie, thank you very much. We'll come back for a full report later on. But this is what we know as at the moment, that 8 cult members are in custody, according to the FBI. 2 of them are uninjured. 3 have minor injuries. 1 is seriously hurt, and 2 of them are critical. We do know that there is no burn facility at the local hospitals, so some of them have been taken at least by helicopter to Parkland Memorial Hospital in Texas. President Clinton did know what was going on, had given the FBI his full support, we're told, from the White House. But in terms of who has been injured, who has survived, we know only what we see. There were, at least according to David Koresh himself, 95 other people in the compound with him, including 17 children, but we do not know that those figures are accurate. We do know there were underground tunnels. We do know there were bunkers. Did anybody else survive? We'll tell you as quickly as we know. I'm Peter Jennings in New York.
This has been a special report from ABC News.
This is ABC.